Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the special meeting of stockholders of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation. I am Scott McNeil, Chief Executive Officer, Chief Financial Officer, and member of the Board of Directors of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation. This special meeting was originally convened on February 11, 2021. On the original date of the meeting, we decided to adjourn to provide stockholders who had not voted with additional time to vote. In accordance with Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's bylaws, we deemed it appropriate to adjourn the special meeting until today to provide additional time to solicit stockholder votes. I will preside as chairman of this meeting. Jim Mutry, Chief Commercial Officer, General Counsel, Secretary, and member of the Board of Directors of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation, will act as the secretary of this meeting. We are limiting the agenda of this meeting strictly to the matters related to stockholder voting on the proposals that were listed in the notice of meeting in Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's proxy statement, prospectus, consent solicitation statement dated January 8, 2021, previously made available to our stockholders, which we will refer to today as the proxy statement. The special meeting of stockholders is hereby called to order. Kevin Kelly, a representative of Morrow Sodali, LLC, will act as the Inspector of Election for this meeting. He has previously taken an oath as Inspector of Election. He has tabulated the proxies that were received prior to the convening of this meeting and will submit a report on the number of shares voted for each item presented to stockholders. All proxies will be voted as marked by the stockholders signing them. Will the Secretary please present the affidavit of mailing of notice of meeting to the stockholders of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation, and also report on the number of shares represented by proxy or present online at this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The affidavits of mailing of notice of meeting from an employee of Continental Stock Transfer and Trust Company and an employee of Morrow Sodali states that the mailing of proxy materials was commenced on January 11th, 2021 to stockholders of record as of the close of business on December 16th, 2020, the record date for stockholders entitled to notice of this meeting and entitled to vote at this meeting. As a result, this meeting is being held pursuant to proper notice in accordance with the bylaws of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation and Delaware law. The affidavit of mailing of notice of meeting has been placed with the records of this meeting, along with a list of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's stockholders of record on December 16, 2020. The list of stockholders is also posted on the virtual meeting website and will be available for inspection by any stockholder for the duration of this meeting. These materials will be filed with the minutes of the meeting. Please keep in mind that as this meeting is in a virtual-only format, you will be able to submit questions that are relevant to the meeting and adhere to the rules of conduct via the virtual meeting website. Of the 39,264,704 shares of Class A common stock and Class B common stock entitled to vote at this meeting, holders of approximately 58.239% or 22,867,337 million are present today, either online or represented by proxy. Since a majority of the voting power of all outstanding shares of common stock of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation entitled to vote at this meeting is represented here today, a quorum is present.
The Secretary has informed us that a quorum is present at the meeting, and I declare this meeting duly and lawfully convened. We will now proceed with the business of the meeting. The next order of business is to vote on the 11 items outlined in the proxy statement. It is 10:06 a.m. Eastern Time today, February 25th, 2021, and the polls are now declared open and are available on the virtual meeting website. We will now proceed with the polling. Each shareholder is entitled to vote for each share of common stock held of the record at the close of business on the voting record date of December 16, 2020. If you previously voted by proxy, you do not need to vote today unless you wish to change your vote. If you have not voted, or if you'd like to change your vote, you may vote online by following the instructions on the virtual meeting website. The polls will remain open online until after I have presented the proposals to be voted on in today's meeting. After the items to be acted upon at the meeting are presented and the votes on those items are reported, the preliminary results of the voting will be reported. The 11 items for stockholder consideration today are set forth in the proxy statement and on the agenda. The proxy statement includes details of each proposal, including how many votes are required to approve each proposal. The company's board of directors recommends a vote for each of the proposals 1 through 9 and proposal 11, and for all nominees on proposal 10. On behalf of the company's board of directors, I will now present the proposals for stockholder consideration at today's meeting. 1, the proposal to approve and adopt the business combination agreement and plan of reorganization dated as of September 23, 2020, among Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation, Lightning Merger Sub Inc., a Delaware corporation and a wholly owned subsidiary of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation, and ChargePoint Inc., a Delaware corporation pursuant to which Lightning Merger Sub will merge with and into ChargePoint Inc., with ChargePoint Inc. surviving the merger as a wholly owned subsidiary of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation, and to approve such merger and the other transactions contemplated by the business combination agreement and plan of reorganization. 2, the proposal to amend Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's amended and restated certificate of incorporation to increase the number of authorized shares of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's capital stock par value 0.0001 per share from 221 million shares, consisting of 220 million shares of common stock, including 200 million shares of Class A common stock par value 0.001 per share, hereafter referred to as Class A common stock, and 20 million shares of Class B common stock par value 0.001 per share, hereafter referred to as Class B common stock, and 1 million shares of preferred stock par value 0.001 per share, hereafter referred to as preferred stock, to 1 billion 10 million shares consisting of 1 billion shares of common stock and 10 million shares of preferred stock. 3, the proposal to amend Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's amended and restated certificate of incorporation to provide that any director or the entire board of directors of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation may be removed from office at any time, but only for cause and only by the affirmative vote of the holders of at least 66 2/3% of the voting power of all then outstanding shares of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's capital stock entitled to vote thereon, voting together as a single class. 4, the proposal to amend Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's amended and restated certificate of incorporation to require the affirmative vote of the holders of at least 66 2/3% of the voting power of all then outstanding shares of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's capital stock entitled to vote thereon, voting together as a single class, to amend, alter, change, or repeal, or adopt any provision inconsistent with any parts of A and B of Article 4, Articles 5th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's proposed second amended and restated certificate of incorporation. 5, the proposal to amend Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's amended and restated certificate of incorporation to require the affirmative vote of the holders of at least 66 2/3% of the voting power of all then outstanding shares of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's capital stock entitled to vote thereon, voting together as a single class, to adopt, amend, or repeal any provision of the Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's bylaws. 6, the proposal to amend Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation's amended and restated certificate of incorporation to make certain other changes that the board of directors of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation deems appropriate for a public operating company, including A, eliminating provisions therein relating to the initial business combination that will no longer be applicable to Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation following the closing of the business combination, including provisions relating to the Class B common stock redemption rights with respect to Class A common stock, the trust account, share issuances prior to the consummation of the initial business combination, transactions with affiliates and other blank check companies, approval of the initial business combination and the minimum value of the target in the initial business combination. B, to change the post-combination company's name to ChargePoint Holdings, Inc. And C, removing the provision that Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation elects to not to be subject to Section 203 of the Delaware General Corporation Law. 7, the proposal to approve, for purposes of complying with applicable listing rules of the New York Stock Exchange, A, the issuance up to an aggregate of 250 million shares of Class A common stock in connection with the business combination, the issuance and the sale of 22.5 million shares of Class A common stock, and the private offering of securities to certain investors in connection with the business combination, which shall occur substantially concurrently with and is contingent upon the consummation of the transactions contemplated by the business combination agreement, and the issuance of up to 71,803,112 shares of Class A common stock that may be reserved for issuance in respect of ChargePoint Holdings, Inc. options issued in exchange for outstanding pre-merger ChargePoint, Inc. options, in respect of ChargePoint Holdings, Inc. warrants issued in exchange for outstanding pre-merger ChargePoint, Inc. warrants. 8, the proposal to approve and adopt the ChargePoint Holdings, Inc. 2021 Equity Incentive Plan and the material terms thereunder. 9, the proposal to approve and adopt the ChargePoint Holdings, Inc. 2021 Employee Stock Purchase Plan and the material terms thereunder. 10, the proposal to elect, effective immediately after the effective time of the merger, Roxanne Bowman, Axel Harris, and Neil Suslak as Class 1 directors until 2021 annual meeting of stockholders, Jeffrey Harris, Mark Leashy, and Richard Wagner Jr. as Class 2 directors until the 2022 annual meeting of stockholders, Bruce Chizen, Michael Lentz, and Pasquale Romano as Class 3 directors until the 2023 annual meeting of stockholders, and until the respective successors are duly elected and qualified, subject to such directors' earlier death, resignation, retirement, disqualification, or removal. And 11, the proposal to adjourn this special meeting to a later date or dates, if necessary or appropriate, to permit further solicitation and vote of proxies in the event there are insufficient votes for or otherwise in connection with the approval of the other proposals set forth in the proxy statement. This concludes the matters to be considered and voted upon at today's meeting. I now declare the polls closed at 10:14 a.m. Eastern Time today, February 25th, 2021. No additional ballots, proxies, or votes, and no changes or revocations will be accepted. The Inspector of Election will count the votes. A preliminary report from the Inspector of Election shows that each of the proposals has been approved and each of the nominees have been elected to serve as directors. The Inspector of Election will furnish the Secretary a written report of the final vote count with respect to the matters voted on today, which shall be included in the minutes of the meeting. The company plans to file a Form 8-K within 4 business days of this meeting to disclose the final voting results. Stockholders may submit questions and comments by typing questions into the text box that appears in the web portal. We will review these questions after the meeting and may contact stockholders to discuss their questions further. That concludes the order of business outlined in the proxy statement and the agenda. Now that the business portion of this meeting is closed, I declare this meeting adjourned. On behalf of the Board of Directors and officers of Switchback Energy Acquisition Corporation, I want to thank you for virtually attending today's meeting.